Can I please have Brittany Lewis to the stage? Brittany was Katherine Thyne's fiancé, and she will be sharing their story.
Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Lewis Feldman, and I am the surviving fiance of Newport News Police Department's Officer Katherine Thyne. Katie was tragically killed in the line of duty on January 23rd, 2020 at the age of 24. Before telling Katie's story, I'd like to take the time to thank Scott for the opportunity to honor Katie this week and to speak on her behalf. Katie began her career with the Newport News Police Department in November 2018. She had a determined mindset to succeed and help others in whatever way necessary. She previously served in the United States Navy for 5 years, active duty, before becoming a Navy reservist. She wanted to make a difference in people's lives and be that positive change in the world. The attitude in which she displayed and went about everything was inspiring. Her smile would light up an entire room. This feature alone is what drew my attention to Katie the first time I saw her. In a room full of people, she stood out. Seeing her smile with those beautiful blue eyes, I noticed there was something different about her. And before I knew it, I was deeply in love with her. Katie's personality was to make everyone happy, even living through her tough childhood and losing her father at a young age. She didn't let that keep her down or have a negative outlook on life. Katie was more than just a police officer. She was an amazing mother. Her daughter, Reagan, was just 2 years old when Katie passed. The importance of family was a trait that Katie and I shared. The small moments like eating dinner together every night meant the most. Although the majority of Katie's family lived in New Hampshire, she made it a point to visit regularly. That was her home, and even if it was just for the weekend, the 10-hour drive was worth it. In addition to family, we shared the love for animals, dogs, cats, you name it. Our house was filled with them, and it just made the house more of a home. I was even told, as Katie was growing up, she always had to try to find a dog a home. Katie and I started dating in 2019. We traveled, spent time with each other's family, made life goals, and barely spent a day away from each other. We were inseparable. We were starting to build a house that we could call ours, making future plans and getting engaged January 16th, 2020, and living a life to its fullest side by side. But all that would come to a sudden halt by the evening of January 23rd, 2020. January 23rd, 2020 was a day that began just like any other day, a perfect one because I got to wake up next to the person I loved most in the world. Little did I know it would end and forever be the worst day of my life. I spoke to Katie and got to see her before her shift that afternoon. Katie was assigned to the second shift in the downtown part of the city of Newport News. While we were at headquarters, which is where I worked at the time, that afternoon I was able to walk her to her car, not knowing that would be the last time I would ever see her, our last in-person conversation, or our last kiss. Katie got to work that afternoon. We spoke on the phone and by text message. Everything seemed like a normal shift or a day away from each other while at work. It was just 3 hours later, after her shift began, Katie would be answering her last call for service. Just prior to 7 p.m., my world changed forever. I was working that evening as well, and I heard an indescribable screaming on the police radio. I had no idea what happened or who was involved, but I knew it was important and immediate to respond to the Monitor Merrimack overlook. This area is a parking lot that leads to a pier overlooking the river. While driving to the scene, I was able to piece together the conversation on the police radio, and I had known that it was Katie that was injured. To what extent, I didn't know. Upon my arrival, I saw the medic was on scene, and I went straight to it. I was stopped by Katie's supervisors and multiple officers. They wouldn't let me get close or anywhere near it. What was hard to comprehend that night as to why they reacted that way is now understandable, and I'm thankful because of the condition of what her body was in. They were protecting me from the traumatic images that I would see and the conditions of her body. Katie's last call for service was initially not even meant for her. 2 other officers were dispatched, but Katie being Katie, she wanted to learn and be proactive. She volunteered to take the call for one of the officers. Katie was the second on scene to a narcotics investigation with 2 individuals parked in the parking lot of that Monmouth-Merrimack overlook. The other officer that was on scene was speaking to the female occupant of the passenger side of the vehicle. So Katie approached the driver's side door to speak to the male occupant. During the short encounter, Katie and her partner were trying to detain both the occupants due to a positive confirmation of narcotics usage. The female occupant complied with no issues, but the driver, however, was not cooperative. The vehicle was off and the male had the keys in his hands. Katie and her partner asked repeatedly for the male to exit the vehicle and give them the keys to the vehicle. After multiple attempts, the male still tried to stall and was able to get the vehicle started and abruptly accelerated the vehicle. Katie at that time became trapped inside the door frame for 8 seconds before the male crashed his vehicle into the tree about a block away. The damages to the vehicle from the collision with the tree were approximately a foot from where Katie was stuck on the car. The damages were so significant it caused fatal injuries to Katie. Katie was lying on the ground as the male continued to drive the vehicle, crashed it again into a small retaining wall, and finally fled on foot. No sort of first aid was provided by the male occupant, just fleeing from the scene. Medics worked on Katie and transported her to a level 1 trauma center. Even with the life-saving measures, Katie was unable to gain consciousness and passed away about an hour after the incident happened. It took almost a week before I was able to see her body at the funeral home. The male driver was arrested that night and taken to jail, where he will continue to remain for the next 50-plus years. He was tried in federal court with guilty convictions of marijuana possession and firearm by felon, and in the Virginia State Court for second-degree murder and hit and run, so he was guilty on all charges. Katie's life mattered, and her story continues to be told, so her memory will always live on. Her name is spoken daily. Her friends, family, and I miss her tremendously. I was once told that time heals all wounds. That's not necessarily true. The pain we have and experience will never go away, ever. It's over time we just learn how to process and deal with the pain. Everyone handles grief and trauma in their own way, and no one can tell you when or how to move on. Just in the dark and hard times, just remember, we all have our angels looking down and protecting us. Thank you.